Let's get started. Number 10. The astronauts who got NASA grounded. For decades, there was an unspoken assumption at NASA. Astronauts were the best of the best. Test pilots, engineers, military heroes. Surely these people wouldn't show up to work drunk. Nobody bothered to write it down. Then in 2007, an independent panel investigating astronaut health dropped a bombshell. They reported that on at least 2 occasions, astronauts had been cleared to fly even after flight surgeons and fellow astronauts warned they were intoxicated. One incident allegedly involved a space shuttle mission. The other involved a Russian Soyuz rocket heading to the International Space Station. The panel also found alcohol was freely available in crew quarters before launch. NASA launched their own investigation and couldn't verify the specific incidents. But the embarrassment was done. Within weeks, NASA formally codified what everyone assumed was already a rule. No alcohol within 12 hours of spaceflight. They called it the bottle-to-throttle rule. They also created a new astronaut code of conduct, all because someone allegedly showed up to ride a rocket with a hangover. Number 9. The lawn dart that ended lawn darts. In April 1987, 7-year-old Michelle Snow was playing with dolls in her front yard in California. Her brother and his friend found a set of lawn darts in the garage and started throwing them in the backyard. One kid threw too hard. The dart sailed over the fence and came down on Michelle with an estimated 23,000 pounds of pressure per square inch. It penetrated her skull. She died 3 days later. Her father, David, was an aerospace engineer. He spent the next 18 months making 7 trips to Washington. He got blisters on his feet walking the halls of Congress. He testified before committees. He wouldn't stop. Between 1978 and 1988, over 6,000 Americans visited emergency rooms from lawn dart injuries. 81% were children under 15. David Snow kept his promise to his little girl. Lawn darts disappeared from store shelves the week before Christmas 1988. Number 8. The Parrot Who Snitched. In 2006, a computer programmer named Chris Taylor lived in Leeds, England, with his girlfriend Susie Collins and his 8-year-old African gray parrot named Ziggy. African grays are considered one of the most intelligent bird species on the planet. They can learn hundreds of words and mimic voices with eerie accuracy. And apparently, they make terrible secret keepers. One evening, Chris and Susie were sitting on the couch when Ziggy suddenly squawked, "I love you, Gary." Chris looked at Susie. Susie looked mortified. Then Ziggy started making kissing sounds. Every time the name Gary came up on television, Ziggy would pucker up. When Susie answered her phone, Ziggy would chirp, "Hiya, Gary," in Susie's exact voice. The parrot had been listening to Susie's romantic encounters with her coworker while Chris was at work. Ziggy was performing a one-bird theatrical production of her affair. Chris confronted Susie. She admitted to a 4-month relationship with a colleague named Gary and moved out that night. But Chris couldn't keep Ziggy either. The parrot refused to stop saying Gary's name in Susie's voice. Chris had to rehome the bird he'd raised since it was a chick. He told reporters he loved Ziggy to bits, but couldn't take hearing that name over and over. Susie told the press she wasn't surprised he got rid of the bird. She said he spent more time talking to it than to her. Maybe that's why Ziggy remembered Gary's name so well. Number 7. The hijacker who invented airport security. On November 24, 1971, a man calling himself Dan Cooper bought a one-way ticket from Portland to Seattle. He was wearing a business suit and a black tie. He ordered a bourbon and soda. Then he handed the flight attendant a note saying he had a bomb and wanted $200,000 and 4 parachutes. The plane landed in Seattle. Cooper exchanged the passengers for his money and parachutes. Then he ordered the pilots to fly toward Mexico at low altitude. Somewhere over southwestern Washington, he lowered the rear stairs of the plane and jumped into a thunderstorm. He was wearing loafers and a thin raincoat. Temperatures at 10,000 feet were below zero. He was never seen again. A reporter misheard his name, and he became known as D.B. Cooper. His hijacking inspired over a dozen copycats within the next year. This wave of air piracy led to mandatory passenger screening at all American airports starting January 5, 1973. Before Cooper, you could walk onto an airplane like boarding a bus. No metal detectors, no bag checks, no questions. The FBI investigated over 1,000 suspects and never solved the case. In 1980, a kid found about $6,000 of the ransom money buried along the Columbia River. The rest has never been found. Number 6. The dive that killed diving boards. In 1993, a young man named Sean Manili dove into his neighbor's backyard pool and hit the bottom. He was paralyzed. His attorneys sued NSPI, the National Spa and Pool Institute, the trade association that sets standards for residential pool construction. The jury awarded $6.6 million. NSPI was forced into bankruptcy. Then more lawsuits came. They went bankrupt again. The association removed all diving board standards from their recommendations. Insurance companies started refusing to cover pools with diving boards or charged massive premiums. The leading diving board manufacturer went out of business. Today, diving boards exist on only about 15% of public pools. Pool builders say their insurance companies will drop them if they install a single board. An entire generation has grown up never knowing what it's like to actually dive into a pool. Number 5. The coffee that burned through skin. In February 1992, 79-year-old Stella Liebeck bought a 49-cent cup of coffee from a McDonald's drive-thru in New Mexico. Her grandson parked the car so she could add cream and sugar. She put the cup between her knees and pulled off the lid. The coffee spilled. She suffered third-degree burns over 16% of her body, including her inner thighs and groin. The burns went through all 3 layers of skin down to muscle and fatty tissue. She was hospitalized for 8 days, underwent skin grafts, and needed 2 years of medical treatment. McDonald's had received over 700 burn complaints in the previous decade. They served coffee at 180 to 190 degrees. At that temperature, coffee causes third-degree burns in under 3 seconds. Liebeck asked McDonald's for $20,000 to cover her medical bills. They offered $800,000. The jury awarded $2.7 million in punitive damages. The judge reduced it. They settled out of court. The case became the poster child for frivolous lawsuits. Now every hot beverage comes with warnings, treating us like we've never encountered temperature before. Most people who mock this case have never seen the photos of her injuries. Number 4. The poison no one ever found. In late September 1982, 12-year-old Mary Kellerman woke up with a runny nose in suburban Chicago. Her parents gave her an extra-strength Tylenol. By 7 in the morning, she was dead on the bathroom floor. That same day, postal worker Adam Janus collapsed after taking Tylenol for muscle pain. His brother and sister-in-law rushed to console the family. Overcome with grief, they took Tylenol from Adam's medicine cabinet. They died, too. Within days, 7 people were dead. Someone had walked into Chicago area stores, taken bottles of Tylenol off the shelves, replaced the acetaminophen capsules with potassium cyanide, and put them back. Johnson & Johnson recalled 31 million bottles. Within 5 weeks, they introduced tamper-proof packaging. Congress passed the Tylenol bill, making product tampering a federal crime. The killer was never caught. A man named James Lewis sent an extortion letter demanding $1 million. He served 10 years for extortion, but was never charged with murder. Now, every medicine, food item, and drink requires seals, safety strips, and tamper-evident packaging. One unknown person created an entire industry of protective packaging. Number 3, the man who actually poisoned Halloween candy. For decades, parents warned children about strangers putting poison in Halloween treats. Sociologists who studied these claims found 0 confirmed cases of any stranger ever killing a child with tainted candy, pure urban legend. Then on Halloween night 1974 in Pasadena, Texas, a man named Ronald Clark O'Brien made the myth real. O'Brien took his 8-year-old son, Timothy, and 5-year-old daughter, Elizabeth, trick-or-treating. At one dark house, O'Brien hung back while the others moved on. He caught up holding 5 giant pixie sticks, claiming a neighbor had given out expensive treats. At bedtime, Timothy wanted that pixie sticks. He poured the powder into his mouth and complained it tasted bitter. His father gave him Kool-Aid to wash it down. Within an hour, Timothy was convulsing. He died before reaching the hospital. The candy contained enough potassium cyanide to kill 2 grown men. Investigators discovered O'Brien had taken out life insurance policies on both his children just weeks before Halloween. He'd asked a coworker where to buy cyanide. The other 4 kids never ate their pixie sticks. One fell asleep with it, still in his hand. O'Brien was convicted of murder. A prosecutor called him the man who ruined Halloween for the whole world. He was executed on March 31st, 1984. Number 2. The last meal that ended last meals. Lawrence Russell Brewer was on death row in Texas for one of the most brutal hate crimes in modern American history. In 1998, he and 2 accomplices beat a black man named James Byrd Jr., spray-painted his face, chained him to their pickup truck, and dragged him for 3 miles along a rural road. On September 21, 2011, the day before his execution, prison guards asked Brewer what he wanted for his last meal. He ordered 2 chicken fried steaks, a triple meat bacon cheeseburger, a cheese omelet, a bowl of fried okra, a pound of barbecue, 3 fajitas, a meat lover's pizza, a half loaf of white bread, a pint of ice cream, a slab of peanut butter fudge, and 3 root beers. The prison prepared the massive feast. Brewer looked at it and refused to eat a single bite. Said he wasn't hungry. State Senator John Whitmire was furious. He demanded the Texas Department of Criminal Justice end the tradition immediately. They did. That same day, an 87-year practice dating back to 1924, abolished because one condemned killer wanted one final act of contempt. Now, Texas death row inmates get whatever everyone else in the prison is eating. Number 1, the man who proved his own lie true. Ronald Clark O'Brien didn't just poison his son. He exploited a fear that had no basis in reality, and by doing so, he made it real. Before O'Brien, the poison candy scare was folklore. Parents worried about strangers tampering with treats, but researchers never found a single verified case. O'Brien knew about this urban legend. Prosecutors believe he deliberately used it as cover, assuming police would blame some anonymous neighborhood psychopath and never look at the grieving father. His own suspicious behavior gave him away. The insurance policies, the questions about cyanide, the fact that he was the only adult who stayed behind at that dark house. His plan collapsed within days, but his crime achieved something else entirely. It validated a myth that had no foundation. Now when parents warn their kids about poisoned Halloween candy, they can point to an actual case. They just don't mention it was committed by the victim's own father. The only confirmed case of fatal Halloween candy poisoning was committed by someone who assumed he could hide behind a danger that didn't exist. He proved it real by making it real. Hospital x-ray lines for candy, factory-sealed treats only, the death of homemade cookies from neighbors, all because one father decided to murder his own son and blame it on the boogeyman. That's all for today. If you found this interesting, I've got plenty more videos like it coming. Hit subscribe so you don't miss them. What other things got ruined by one person? Drop it in the comments.